Welcome to Interviews, hosted by Randy Goodman, Harvey Callis Real Estate, your real estate professional. Get to know our community, our businesses, products, and services that will elevate your life. Please welcome your hostess, Randy Goodman.
Good morning, everyone. This is Randy Goodman here from Harvey Callis Real Estate, and I am super excited to be here with Yvonne Basten, who is an event management guru, and I can't wait to hear all about that. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Randy, for having me here today.
Well, it's such a pleasure, and I can't wait to speak to you because for a few reasons. One, because we have this in common, and two, because there's definitely an impact right now, and I'd love to know what's happening, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But tell me, what led you here? Like, what was your journey to becoming an event management guru?
It's been an interesting journey. It was not something that I actually saw coming myself. I, grew up actually in the Netherlands, and if I think back now, I have done a lot of things like events and organizing and just helping and serving and doing things for other people in different capacities through church and otherwise. And then many years passed, and it wasn't until 2014 that I actually attended an event here in Calgary from a company that had just come to Calgary. They were a company that was they were teaching courses to entrepreneurs, and I was in the room, and I was observing actually what the lady was doing who was supporting from the back of the room, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I was in a phase in my life where I was kind of searching. I was wondering, I'd just been working for a company for 14 years, supporting the owner. And, I loved what I did at the time. And I also knew there was something else out there for me, but I couldn't really put my finger on it, what that was. So actually for a few years, I was searching and, trying other things. And, I was doing some coaching for a while, some life coaching and some business coaching with clients. I ran a mastermind. And then there was this moment where I was literally watching this lady do this fun stuff from the back of the room. And I was like, I want to do what she does. So at one point, I became part of the program. And then I started talking to the owner. Him and I got along really, really well. And I said, hey, you're flying in this lady, every month, or, however often he needed to fly her into Calgary from Vancouver. And I said, I'm pretty sure I can do what she does. And he said, well, we're actually looking because, flying her in every month was, kind of like a temporary measure for the company because they were just setting up here in Calgary. And so he said, we're actually looking for somebody to do this. And I was like, sign me up. So I started, really learning the trade from this beautiful lady, Monique. And then I originally started doing these kind of things for my friends for free.
Right. Of course.
Right. And then, there was a moment
somewhere, right?
Yeah. And then there was a light bulb moment where it was like, oh, I can actually get paid for this. I don't have to give this away.
Right.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. No, I love that. So tell us a little bit about what does an event guru do?
Well, it's that I oftentimes actually have to explain a little bit about what I do, because sometimes people think that I'm an event planner, and I'm not an event planner. I do not pick the purple napkins, for your party kind of thing. That is not me. So what I do is I guide, actually, I work with a lot of coaches, and I guide them through the initial kind of, phase of leading up to the event. Then I'm part of the event by supporting their team. They usually have a small team that helps them already during the event, but then I'm kind of, leading their team. And I also support them because oftentimes they will sell their service usually either a mastermind or their coaching program.
Hmm.
And I help them during the sales process as well.
Okay, perfect. So you're kind of like an all-around event person.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So who would look for you? Who would want to hire you? Who would be that ideal client?
It's a coach who runs their own events. They were often, live events that now had to transition into an online event.
Yeah.
They often have a team in place, like a virtual assistant, a tech person who creates landing pages and things like that.
Hmm.
And then I usually become part of the team, leading up to the event, where I'm part of the team meetings, so I can advise them on certain, what works, what doesn't work, how do you engage an audience, online, things like that.
Right.
Um, and then so they oftentimes have a program that they sell into, which is either, for instance, a mastermind that is like a 6 months or a year-long mastermind. They're usually, the value of those programs is usually, about $10,000 and up.
Right.
um, and yeah, and they are looking for support with, for the event, so that they understand that they can't do it all by themselves. They shouldn't really be doing it all by themselves,
Right.
because there's so much, that goes on behind the scenes. If you know anything
Yeah.
about events, and I know you do, then
Yeah.
it's there are so many different moving parts. And definitely, if you have a team, even if you have somebody on your team that has helped you, occasionally with a webinar, things like that,
Right.
it's bigger, it's different, because also the numbers oftentimes will change, right? Like I worked
Yeah.
with a coach in December for her event. She normally, would get maybe 20, 25 people live, and she
Yeah.
had over 60 people registered for this
Oh,
event,
nice.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So it's a different, it's a different way of dealing with an event. So they need that expertise, they need that support.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
potentially will think of things that they might not think about, that they
Yep.
need to arrange or set
Yep.
up, or yeah.
Listen, it takes a village. It
It
totally takes
does.
a village, and
Yeah.
no successful person did it alone, right?
No, no.
None.
Even
And
though, we sometimes think we have to. I think it's a female trait that we sometimes think that we have to, it's like a badge
right.
of honor almost, that we have to just slog up the hill and hope that we'll arrive at one point. But it does take a team for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's okay to ask for help. And honestly, especially with events, how many times, and I know there's people out there that are going to resonate with this, but how many times do you plan an event by yourself and then who shows up? Me, myself, and I, right?
Yes.
Nobody else shows up except
No.
your best friend that, supports you with everything.
Or your
So,
mom.
or your mom. Yes, your mom. Yeah, definitely. I love that. So, so really, if you want to have a successful event, you really need to have a team around you, whether they're hired, whether they're volunteers, whether they're employees, whether, whatever they are, or if it's a joint venture, whatever it is, you
Mhm.
have to have a team around you in order to have a successful event. But having somebody like yourself who can make sure all those moving parts, it's kind of like having a what do you call them, the wedding planner at your wedding. And I'm not talking about picking the napkins, but somebody who literally oversees everything and makes sure nothing, no glitches happen. If a glitch happens, you take care of it. If something else is missing, you're the one who's thinking of making sure it's included, because not everybody can think of everything, like you said. So how has this affected, like, so COVID obviously has shut down all our live events.
Mhm.
And here in the Toronto area, like, we're basically on house arrest, right? We're all on a
Yeah.
stay at home order. So, obviously there's no live events going on, not even tiny ones. So how are you transitioning or shifting your business so that it thrives through these times?
Well, Randy, that's a great question. And in all honesty, when last March came around, and the whole COVID thing exploded and everything started to become shut down. I'm personally in Alberta, And you know, and they did like lots of shutdowns and stuff like that. There were no live events, and
Right.
it was like a little bit of a shock to the system, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
You know, when you're used to, you know, supporting, you know, clients in life scenarios, and suddenly that is, you know, gone. It's like it did feel a little bit in the beginning, you know, whether, you know, that the rug was pulled from underneath me, and like, what
Hmm.
am I gonna do?
Right.
And then I fortunately had some clients that were like, okay, you know, I have an event coming up and we're just going to take this online. I'm like,
Hmm.
that's the spirit.
Right.
Because I wasn't too sure if everybody was ready for that, right? Because,
Yeah.
but then in hindsight, when I look back, I have quite a few clients who actually are teaching online, like all their teachings are
Mm.
online and have
Right.
been for several years, right? Whether it's their one-on-one coaching or group coaching. And so it was just their enrollment event, you know, the one that I'm specialized in, that they were doing those live. And so so then they were kind of like, well, I've already been teaching online, I know I can teach, right? And
Right.
so it's just a matter of, you know, how are we going to translate that in an online setting, because you
Hmm.
can't treat an in-person event the same as you do an online event, and the other way
Right.
around, right? So there's
Yep.
different things that you need to put into place to make it fun and interactive, and, you know, kind of get away from the you know, people feeling like they're Zoom fatigued and all those kind of things. And
Right.
so so that was, you know, that was key. And from, you know, once I kind of got myself into like, you know, when, if they can do it live, they can do it online.
Hmm.
And it's just finding my people, right, that are willing
Right.
to do that, because there was a good percentage that was sitting, you know, on their couch going like, well, we'll just wait until this is over.
Right.
And right.
And here we are 10 months later. Yeah.
Yeah, and here we are almost a year later, and it's not over by any stretch of the imagination, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, yes, there's vaccines rolling out and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean that it's over.
Right.
And so, and I personally don't think, Randy, that, you know, that online events are going to go away. I
Right.
know already of several people who have transitioned into what I call or what we call in the industry, a hybrid event, where they
Hmm.
you know, where they have certain people live, you know, smaller group live, and then do the rest of the people online. Because it's, you know, people have started to realize too, is that when they, you know, when they go online with their event, they have such a bigger reach, right? People don't have to
Hmm.
go through all the expenses of the travel and all those kind of things, right? And extra
Right.
travel time if they have to go from East Coast to West Coast and things like that. So, you know, coaches are starting to see like a huge benefit to actually doing an online event. So
Hmm.
for me,
Hmm.
it's, you know, the world is my oyster, really.
Yeah. And there's pros and cons to everything, right?
Oh,
But
of course. Yes.
yeah, there's, like, just to be the devil's advocate there, and I do events too. So I've continued to do events online, but I'm not doing a specific event online, my 10th anniversary Toronto Women's Expo, because it just has to be live.
Right.
And, just what we've done with it, with the gala and all sorts of things, it just has to be live. But,
Right.
um, the, when you are at an event, you're feeling the energy. You're like a rock concert or a sports game or something, right?
Mhm.
So there are definitely, like, I love the fact that the virtual, you can reach so many more people, but I would say most events can be done online, and then there's certain ones that you want to do live. So I really look forward to that live time, but it's amazing and incredible that you can transition
Mhm.
and have those events go live, because there's no reason that businesses should be suffering or others should be suffering because they can't do a live event. There definitely is a way to transition online and to make it happen and be successful, or even have more success,
Yeah.
right? And having people like you who have, decided to focus on making sure those are successful and making sure all the pieces are in place is, imperative. So thank you for doing that and supporting businesses that way. So how can people get a hold of you?
They can send me an email, for instance, at Yvonne, my first name, Yvonne, at eventmanagement.guru. That's my email address. They can find me on social media. I'm all over social media, definitely Facebook. They can send me private messages there, Yvonne Basten. I also have a Yvonne Basten consulting page, and I have an
Okay.
eventmanagement.guru page as well.
Okay, perfect. So I know it's also important to you to give back to society, to give back to community. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Randy, I've been volunteering basically my whole life. It's in my blood. I love it. I get huge satisfaction out of it. And then I also, one of my big ambitions in life is actually to get to a financial place where I can, financially give freely as well. At
Mhm.
higher levels. So,
Right,
not just $100 here or, $500 there, but,
right.
more, I really wanted to get into the thousands. There is a great, great charity here in Calgary that I absolutely love and adore. It's called Made by Mama. It's a grassroots charity that was started in Ellison, the president's living room, 10, 11 years ago. And they support moms here
Okay.
locally in Calgary that are going through hardship, and
Mm,
whatever that looks like, whether it's financial hardship, whether it's a single mom on a cancer journey with little ones at home,
mhm.
whether it's a mom who just birthed single mom twins and just needs to
Right.
sleep at one point. And
Yeah.
so they provide food. They have freezers filled with food that are distributed on a daily basis to different families. They have,
Nice.
if you need a car seat or toys or diapers for your child, you can get those too,
Okay.
clothing, anything. So it's an amazing organization that is 100% volunteer one. And
Hmm.
they, even though the demand has tremendously increased, definitely also through these COVID times,
Right.
because it brought a lot of hardship to a lot of
Yep.
people here in Calgary, and I'm sure,
Oh, yeah.
nationwide and everywhere around the world.
Yep.
But a lot of the ways that they raised their money and received money to do all this work has changed, because for instance one of their big ones was like doing a big golf tournament,
Right.
how they raised funds. Another one was being able to do a casino every
Right.
18 months kind of thing, and depending on how they were in the rotation, and all that has fallen away because all those things are closed. And so
Right.
I've given both time to the organization and also financial support, whatever I can, whenever I
Right.
can do it. So, yeah,
That's great. Thank you
they're
for doing
amazing.
that. It's
Oh, you're very
beautiful
welcome.
and sounds like a fantastic organization.
Oh, you're incredible.
Um, so are there any tips or suggestions you want to give people? It can be personal, professional, whatever is on your mind right now.
What comes to mind is don't think that you have to do it alone. And this is for both personal and business journey, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
even in our personal lives, we oftentimes or sometimes will think that we're alone, but we're really not, right?
Right.
There are people out there that are willing to help, whether it's professional people, there's helplines, there's all kinds of, ways to receive support. The only caveat oftentimes is that you need to be willing to reach out. And
Yeah.
it's that, and that's something that I had to learn over the years myself personally. So
Right.
growing up, I thought that I had, it was better to just do it all by myself because I would have my control. I wouldn't have to bother anybody.
Yeah.
Or, I would ask somebody to do something and God forbid it went wrong, you know? And so now I know it's okay for people to make mistakes. I make mistakes myself. So, I surrounded myself with support. I've got a wonderful VA who does great things for me. And if
Right.
sometimes, something doesn't go 100% right, we'll talk about it, talk it through, and boom, we're off to the races again. So Yeah. So asking for help is I think definitely in these times, right, where
Mhm.
people are more isolated. It's even worse for you guys in Ontario, where you basically have those stay-at-home orders, and people can feel very alone and lonely. And asking for
Yeah.
support and reaching out is not a sign of weakness; it's a sign of strength.
Right. I love that. Yes.
Mhm.
That's a good thing to sign off with. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with us, Yvonne. Thank you for doing what you do to help entrepreneurs, to help businesses, to help people in general, and just being out there and, giving of yourself. So thank you for
Thank
being
you so
here
much,
with us.
Randy, for having me, for inviting me to the interview. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And it's been a pleasure. And I can't wait to connect again.
Sounds great. Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
Thank you for listening to this interview hosted by Randy Goodman. We hope you will take action and connect with the incredible business people and leaders in our community. And remember, Randy is always here to answer any questions you have regarding your real estate needs. Be sure to register on the website and stay up to date on what's happening in your area at parkbench.com/millpond.